My newspaper editor taught me to mix with all sorts of, my very first newspaper editor taught me to mix with all different types of people, and you won't go far wrong. And I did, and I went far wrong. I think I've done everything. I think just to take all of the opportunities that are available to you, to always make sure you take the opportunities that become available to you. That's just good advice for anyone. Sometimes you miss those things. I remember the very first time I started working in professional photography, as in I was getting paid for it, and it took me 10 years to turn up to a newspaper job and say, I am a photographer. It took me from 1987 to 95, well, maybe 8 or 9 years, then I was comfortable enough to turn up and say, I'm a professional photographer. Rather than, I used to turn up and say, I'm Jason, I'm from the Telegraph, or the Times. I'd never used the word photographer for a long time. Well, at the risk of sounding flippant, it was when I started getting paid a really good wage. That sounds flippant because these days I think a professional photographer is much more than it was 15, 20 years ago. It was a term I would have said, well, anybody who earns their living, the majority of their living from working as a photographer. I think these days it's probably slightly different.
So what's it like different these days now?
Well, I've changed from being a jobbing photographer to being somebody who works within photography. So it's changed personally for me. And unless you're a wedding photographer or a football photographer, a food photographer or a fashion photographer, I think things have changed. I think those niches still exist in photography, but I certainly wouldn't describe myself as a professional photographer personally these days. Why is professionalism important? It's important in every walk of life. If you're trying to earn money, why would somebody book you or commission you if you're A, going to be late, if you're B, going to be rude to people, if you're C, not going to complete the job on time, D, not fill the brief or the requirement of what somebody's asked you to do. I think I was taught very early on in my career by a very good editor who taught me what not to do as a professional photographer, and I think that probably helped, and he drummed that into me at the age of 18 or 19. For me, I kind of think I learned early on to be polite to people and turn up on time and get the job done when you say you're going to get the job done. He used to tell me what one of the colleagues I used to work with, he used to say, do not be like him. So it's actually watching this guy who would never submit the photographs on time, the story on time, arrive late at the job and actually miss the photo shoot completely. That was probably good, finding out what not to do. I've been preparing for this for about 8 years, slowly, with different editors and different people in the photographic field, and then finally, a year and a half working with a curator to actually forensically examine all of the photographs.
Just how you want to...
No, they never started off as a set idea. This project grew and grew to what it is today, but there was no definite plan for anything. It was like a long-term investigation of British Indian relationships, but using photography to sort of explain bits of it, some of it, a small part of it. I think so. I think I continue, but I'm not sure yet how that's going to be. I'm not sure I would ever spend the time walking around taking people's portraits like I did with this, but there is another avenue to go down, I think. No, I think I pretty much behave the same way as I would do if I've photographed any sports person or famous person or anybody on the streets. I think I try to treat people the way that I'd like to be treated by other people. So no, I actually think it would be pretty similar to everyone. You need to treat everyone with a bit of respect if you're going to work in photography, I think. Do you know what? Sometimes it's not even about being a professional, it's about being human first. I think I've just said the same to somebody else over there in a talk. You just need to be a decent person rather than being, if you're a rude person, you're going to be rude professionally. I mean, you're not going to get on in this business.